I overheard my stepmother and stepsister planning to disinherit me from my father, so I moved out and survived on my own for a year. Now my father found out the truth, and everything changed. I'm 23 and have lived with my father, stepmother, and stepsister for the last 5 years. My mother died when I was 16, and about a year later, my father remarried. Everything happened quickly, and soon I had a new stepmother, Karen, and stepsister, Ashley, who is 2 years younger than me. At first, everything was fine. Not perfect, but tolerable. Karen, I tried to portray a caring mother, but it always looked fake. Ashley was polite but cold. I chalked it up to awkwardness due to our family situation and hoped that things would get better with time. After my mother died, my father threw himself into work, and this did not change with the advent of his new wife. He is a successful businessman, often goes on business trips or stays late at work. I ended up spending a lot of time with Karen and Ashley, and at first I was fine with it. When my father was at home, we had dinner together, and outwardly everything seemed normal. I went to college and came home on weekends and holidays. After finishing my studies, I moved home again while I was looking for a job in my field. That's when everything started to change. Karen became less friendly, constantly reminding me that at my age it was time to live separately. Ashley, who also recently graduated, returned home, and suddenly the house became crowded. Some kind of tension appeared, the reason for which I could not understand. At that time, I had already been looking for a job for several months, sending my resume and going to interviews. It was difficult in the current economic situation, but I tried. My father supported me, told me not to rush and find a suitable vacancy. Karen, on the contrary, she increasingly declared that it was time for me to move out. Last week, I overheard a conversation that turned my world upside down. I was in my room with the door closed when I heard voices Karen and Ashley in the corridor. Apparently, they thought that I was not at home and did not try to speak more quietly. Karen said that she needed to get rid of him before the will was finalized, and Ashley agreed, adding that it was impossible to risk allowing him to receive an equal share. It was easy to guess that they were talking about me. I sat in horror as they discussed different ways to convince my father to kick me out of the house. Karen proposed to deprive me of the opportunity to take the family car so that I could not go to interviews, and Ashley accidentally broke my laptop so I can't submit job applications. The conversation seemed endless, although it probably only lasted 10 minutes. They discussed how much money they would get if I was gone, what trips they could afford, what things they could buy, while at the same time making plans on how to ruin my life. When they finally left my door, I literally felt sick. These people whom I considered family had lived under the same roof with me for years, and now they were conspiring against me, as if I were just an obstacle that needed to be removed. The next few days passed in a blur. I tried to act as normal, but it was difficult. Every communication with Karen and Ashley now seemed like a sham. Sometimes I noticed how they looked at me with some kind of a calculating expression on their faces, and it gave me goosebumps. I thought about telling my father everything, but I didn't dare. He seemed happy with Karen, and I didn't want to ruin this illusion. Besides, I had no evidence. My word would have been against theirs, and I wasn't sure which side my father would take. In the end, I decided to act calmly and began to prepare for the move. I wrote to my friends to see if someone needed a roommate, and began looking for work more actively. I even agreed to work that I had previously considered beneath my dignity. I was ready to do anything just to move out of this house as quickly as possible. A week after that conversation, I got lucky for the first time. A friend of my acquaintance was looking for someone to rent out his apartment for 6 months while he studied abroad. The rent was expensive, but I had savings and could afford to pay, so I agreed immediately. When I told my father that I was moving out, he was surprised but supported me. But Karen and Ashley could not hide their delight. They even demonstratively helped me pack my things, constantly exchanging meaningful glances, thinking that I did not see it. On the day of my departure, I again overheard their conversation. This time they were discussing how to make sure my father didn't change his will now that I was gone. Then I realized that it was not just about kicking me out of the house. They wanted to disinherit me completely. I've been living in a new place for a month now. The apartment is small, the area is not the best, but this is my home. I am still looking for a permanent job, taking on any temporary jobs to make ends meet. It's not perfect, but it's much better than living in a house with people who only see me as an obstacle to money. My dad calls every few days and asks, "How are you?" He noticed that I stopped coming home, and I can see that he is worried. I come up with excuses. They say, I'm busy looking for work and arranging an apartment. I still can't bring myself to tell him the truth. I even thought about hiring a lawyer to try to protect my inheritance, but I realized it wasn't about the money. It hurts to realize that the people I considered family see me only as an obstacle to their own gain. Sometimes, late at night, I think about how disappointed my mother would be that I am not fighting for what is rightfully mine. But then I remember her words, that family is about love, and not about blood or legal documents. And by this logic, Karen and Ashley were never my family. I don't know what awaits me next. Part of me wants to openly blame them and expose their plans. The other is to just walk away and never look back. For now, I am focused on my life without regard to inheritance or anyone else's goodwill. Last week, I finally found a job. The position is entry-level, the salary is small, but that's something. I haven't told my father yet. I don't want Karen and Ashley to know at least something about my life. The less they know, the less opportunity they have to harm me. I started going to a psychologist, the cheapest one I could find. Slowly but surely, it is helping me cope with my anger and feelings of betrayal. The psychologist advised me to write Karen and Ashley, but not send them, but simply throw out emotions. Now I already have several notebooks filled with words that I would like to say to them. Sometimes I dream about my mother. In these dreams, she always smiles and says that she is proud of me. I wake up with a feeling of both comfort and loss. I miss her more than ever. I miss her advice so much to sort through all this chaos. I was thinking about contacting my mom's side of the family. We stopped communicating after her death, mainly because it was too painful for all of us. But now I feel like I need this connection. Maybe it's time to restore your lost relationship. Over time, my life fell into a routine. Work, home, work again. It's not particularly exciting, but at least everything is stable. I'm gradually building my life in which there is no place Karen, Ashley, and talk about inheritance. My dad's birthday is coming up, and I don't know if I should go to a family dinner. On the one hand, I want to see him and congratulate him. On the other hand, the thought that I would have to sit at the same table with Karen and Ashley and pretending that everything is fine disgusts me. I started volunteering at a local youth center on weekends. Many children who come there grew up in dysfunctional families or have lost parents. Now I understand them like never before. Volunteering helps me and, in a way, heals me. Because helping these children deal with their pain and anger helps me understand my own emotions better. Sometimes I wonder what Karen and Ashley are telling people about my sudden departure. Are they making me out to be an ungrateful son who abandoned his family? Or are they just pretending that I never existed? I try not to dwell on it, but these thoughts come to mind from time to time. I made new friends at work and among volunteers. It's nice to communicate with people who know me for who I am and are not trying to use me for their own gain. This relationship feels much more genuine than any connections I've had with Karen and Ashley. The other day I came across Ashley in the store. It was awkward, to say the least. She was overly friendly, asking about work and about my apartment. I answered evasively and left as soon as the opportunity presented itself. After this meeting, I felt uneasy for several days. I started to think about the future. Will I stay in this city where at any moment I can face Karen and Ashley? Or should I leave and start my life again where no one knows my story? The thought seems tempting, but I'm not sure I'm ready to move away and leave my father. Also, the lease on my home is coming to an end, and I need to decide whether to renew the contract or look for something better. The thought of moving again is tiring, but the prospect of living in this tiny apartment indefinitely is also not happy. This is another reminder of how much my life has changed in such a short time. I recently tried to start dating girls again. Nothing serious yet, just a few casual dates. It's pleasant, but at the same time difficult. I'm afraid to open up to people. I'm worried that I'll be betrayed or hurt again. My psychologist says that this is normal, that trust needs to be restored gradually. Everything is fine at work. I was recently promoted and now I'm a little better off financially. I no longer have to dip into savings every month to pay rent. It's a small victory, but it means a lot to me. I still haven't told my father that I overheard the conversation. Karen and Ashley. Every time I'm about to bring it up, I stop myself. What if he doesn't believe me? What if this only ruins our relationship? What if he believes it, but still decides to stay with Karen? I don't know if I can cope with such betrayal, and sometimes I'm even angry at my mother for dying and leaving me in this situation. I understand that this is ridiculous, but this feeling does not go away. If she had been alive, none of this would have happened. I had a home, a family, a feeling that someone needed me. I try to push these thoughts away, but they keep coming back. I started learning to cook. I didn't need this before, but now it has become a necessity. It's not working out too well yet, but I'm trying. There's something satisfying about cooking. Creating a meal from scratch, taking care of yourself in such a simple yet meaningful way. The holidays are approaching, and with them a new difficult choice. Go home for Christmas or find an excuse to stay home. Just the thought of forced smiles and ostentatious joy at the holiday table disgusts me. But the prospect of spending the holiday alone is also not encouraging. Lately, I've been having trouble sleeping. I lie for hours at night, replaying that conversation in my head over and over again. I analyze every episode of communication with Karen and Ashley from the moment they appeared in my life, trying to understand if there were warning signs that I missed. It's exhausting, but I can't force my mind to turn off. I thought about telling them directly that I knew everything I had heard of their conversation. But what will this lead to? Most likely, they will deny everything or turn the situation around so that I will be to blame. And if it got to the father, it could only make the situation worse. Sometimes I feel normal. I go to work, return home, move on with my life. And other days, the weight of everything that happened weighs on me so much that it becomes difficult to get out of bed. Difficult to exist in a world where the people who were supposed to be my family saw me only as a nuisance. I started keeping a diary. I write down my thoughts and feelings. It helps a little to throw it all out on paper, to comprehend it, to experience it. Perhaps someday I will reread these entries and realize how far I have come from that moment. For now, this is just a way to document this difficult period of my life. 6 months after moving, I still often look back and realize everything that happened. I am no longer the same person I was the day I overheard that conversation. In some ways, I became stronger, and in others, more vulnerable. I am learning to stand firmly on my own 2 feet, to build a life that does not depend on someone else's mercy or inheritance. I don't know what will happen next. Will I ever be able to openly confront Karen and Ashley? Will I tell my father the truth? Will I be able to survive this betrayal and start trusting people again? There are no answers yet, but I am trying to live here and now, building a life that belongs only to me. It's not easy. This is not the life I imagined, but it is mine. And that is enough for me. Update 1. It's been a year since I left my father's house after hearing my stepmother and stepsister making plans to get rid of me. Much has changed during this time, and not all for the better. Sorry for the delay in updating. Life has been incredibly stressful, and for a long time I struggled to find the time and emotional strength to sit down and write everything. I was working a lot while still going to therapy, so updating the post wasn't a priority. But I know a lot of you have been asking what's going on in my life, so I finally forced myself to write this update. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original post with advice, support, or kind words. Your messages meant more to me than you can imagine, especially during those first difficult months on my own. I tried to read every comment, although I could not respond to everyone. Your support has been a bright spot in a dark time, and I am grateful for that. Now let's move on to the update. I'm still in the same job I got right after I moved out. The work is normal, but the salary barely covers my expenses. I'm looking for something better, but the job market is very competitive right now. Every rejection letter feels like a personal defeat, a reminder that I'm still fighting to get my life in order. My relationship with my father became strained. I avoid family gatherings and make excuses not to visit him. He noticed, of course. Now he calls more often, asking if I'm okay. I don't like lying to him, but I also can't tell him the truth about why I left. The few times I saw him, he looked worried and tired. I wonder if it's due to stress Karen and Ashley, or is it just caring about me? I did come to his birthday dinner a few months ago. It was every bit as awkward as I expected. Karen and Ashley were feignedly cheerful, asking about my work and apartment with feigned concern. I saw the calculation in their eyes. I left as soon as I could, making up the excuse that I had an important meeting in the morning. It was hard during the holiday. I told my father that I would not be able to come home for Christmas, citing work commitments. I actually spent that day alone in my apartment, eating microwaved turkey and watching old movies. It was depressing, but still better than playing happy family with Karen and Ashley. I'm thinking more and more about telling my father the truth, but every time this thought comes into my head, I start to talk myself out of it. What if he doesn't believe me? What if this creates a gap between us? What if he believes me but still decides to stay with Karen? I'm not sure I can stand it. My therapy sessions have been helpful, but progress is slow. I'm still processing the anger and betrayal I feel. My psychologist says it's normal that healing takes time. But some days I feel like I'll never get through this. I had several more meetings with Ashley in the city. Every time she acts as if everything is normal, as if we are still one big happy family. This disgusts me. I started avoiding certain stores and restaurants to minimize the chance of meeting her or Karen. Volunteering at the youth center became my salvation. I met a few kids there and became friends with a teenager named Alex who lost his mom last year. Helping him through his grief was a kind of healing for me and a reminder that there is still good in the world, that it is possible to find connection with people. I've tried to date girls several times over the past year, but it didn't work out. It's hard for me to open up. I'm always waiting for something to happen. The last date ended with the girl telling me that I had too much baggage. She's probably right. My lease ends next month and I don't know what to do. The thought of moving is exhausting, but I'm also tired of this small apartment, noisy neighbors and poor heating. I even looked at options in other parts of the city. I did contact my mother's sister, Aunt Sarah. We haven't spoken for many years since my mother died. It was awkward at first, but as we talked, I felt like I was regaining a part of myself that I had lost. Aunt Sarah invited me to visit her this weekend. I'm considering accepting her invitation, although the thought of explaining everything that happened is scary. Work has become more stressful lately. There are rumors of layoffs, and as a new employee, I'm afraid I'll end up on the list. The thought of losing my job scares me. I have almost no savings left, and I'm not sure how long I can survive without an income. I started having nightmares about being homeless, having to go back to my father and face Karen and Ashley. I wake up in a cold sweat with my heart racing. It takes me a few hours to calm down and fall asleep again. My birthday passed without much fuss. My father called, of course, and several friends invited me for drinks. It was hard not to compare this day to my past birthdays when my mother was alive and we had big family celebrations. The contrast was stark and depressing. I've been thinking about my mom a lot lately. I wonder what she would think about all this. What would you advise me to do? Sometimes I talk to her photos, tell her everything that happened. This may be childish, but it helps. The anger I feel towards Karen and Ashley almost did not decrease over the past year. On the contrary, it only intensified. I often imagine confronting them and telling them to their faces that I know everything. In my dreams, they confess everything and Dad kicks them out. But I understand that this is just a fantasy. I started looking into legal options just in case. I met with a lawyer who specializes in inheritance issues. He said that without proof, there was little I could do to protect a possible inheritance. He suggested talking to his father about setting up a trust, but that would mean telling him everything. I'm not ready for this yet. My health began to suffer from all this stress. I have lost weight and feel tired all the time. My doctor said I have high blood pressure and need to find ways to relax. Yeah, easier said than done. I was thinking about leaving for good, starting over with a clean slate in a new city where there would be no chance of meeting Karen and Ashley. But the thought of leaving his father, of perhaps never seeing him again, is too painful to consider. But there were moments of light in this darkness. I have made some good friends at work and through volunteering. They don't know the whole story, but they support me in their own way. It's nice to have people in my life who love me for who I am, and not because of a possible inheritance. I took up new hobbies to fill time and take my mind off things. I started learning to play the guitar. I always wanted this, but I didn't have time before. I'm not doing very well yet, but the learning process itself gives me satisfaction. I also started running. At first, it was just an excuse to get out of the apartment and clear my head, but I realized that I liked it. There's something liberating about pushing your body to its limits, leaving all your worries behind, at least for a while. As the year approached since I left, I began to feel more and more anxious. It seemed to me that I should have achieved more, should have been in a better position. My psychologist says that I am too hard on myself, that healing is not linear. I'm trying to believe it. I still went to see Aunt Sarah and her family. It was nice to be around people who knew my mother, who could tell stories I hadn't heard. This weekend, I felt like I was part of something again. But returning to my empty apartment turned out to be more difficult than I expected. This visit also caused conflicting feelings. Aunt Sarah asked about Dad, how he was living with his new wife. I couldn't answer. I stumbled over my words. She noticed this and gently tried to find out more. In the end, I told her everything. Aunt Sarah was furious. She wanted to call Dad immediately and talk to him personally. Karen and Ashley. I had to calm her down by explaining why I hadn't told him yet. She didn't agree with my decision, but she respected it. Before I left, she made me promise that I would keep in touch with her and let her know if I needed anything. Knowing that someone from my mother's family was on my side was a comfort to me. And Sarah now calls regularly, asking about my affairs. She even offered to let me live with her if it became too difficult for me financially. I'm not ready to accept her offer yet, but it's nice to know that there is such an opportunity. As for Dad, everything came to a head last week. He came to my apartment without warning and with concern on his face. He said that he could no longer tolerate this coldness between us, that he needed to find out what was going on. I tried to make an excuse, to come up with an excuse, but he wouldn't allow it. We ended up talking for several hours. I told him everything, how I overheard the conversation between Karen and Ashley, his fears about inheritance, why he avoided family meetings. Everything came out in a flood of emotions that I couldn't control. Dad was silent. His face became more and more serious with every word I said. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. He then apologized. He said he had no idea any of this was going on, that he was blind to what was going on in his home. He didn't say outright that he believed me, but he didn't dismiss my concerns either. He promised to look into the situation and pay more attention to Karen and Ashley. He also said he would talk to his lawyer about protecting my inheritance no matter what happened to his marriage. After our conversation, I felt relieved, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from me. But I also felt guilty for possibly ruining his life, his marriage. Dad assured me that I had done the right thing by telling him that he needed to know. But I saw doubt in his eyes. It's been a week since our conversation, and I haven't heard much from Dad. He wrote that he was understanding the situation and would be in touch soon. I try not to make a big deal about this silence, but it's hard not to worry. Yesterday she called me Karen. Her voice was sickly sweet. When she invited me to dinner on Sunday, I refused, citing work. I wonder if she knows that I talked to Dad. Is she trying to fix something? This thought makes me slightly disgusted. As I approach the start of my second year of living alone, I found myself at a crossroads. Should I stay here, next to Dad, but also with Karen and Ashley? Should I accept Aunt Sarah's offer and move closer to my mother's family? Or start all over again? Move to a new city and start a new life? I don't know the answers yet, but I finally feel like I have a choice. The future is uncertain, but it doesn't seem as bleak as it did a year ago. I'm not okay, but maybe I'm starting to come to my senses. For now, I live one day at a time. I am focused on my work, volunteer activities, and new hobbies. I am building a life that will be completely mine, not dependent on someone else's goodwill or inheritance. It's not easy, and it's not the life I dreamed of, but it's mine. The conversation with Dad brought up a lot of old feelings. I think more and more often about my mother and wonder, what would she think about all this? Is she proud of me for living on my own? Disappointed that I didn't fight harder? I will never know, and this uncertainty gnaws at me. I'm having trouble sleeping again. Every time my phone rings, I jump. I think it's Dad with news. The weight is unbearable. I threw myself into work and hobbies to keep my mind occupied, but in quiet moments, anxiety creeps back into me. Update 2. Last week, Ashley tried to add me as a friend on social networks. I ignored the request, but it still unsettled me. Is she trying to follow me? Or is this just another attempt to maintain the appearance of a happy family? Either way, I don't want anything to do with her. I've been thinking a lot about the future lately. Before all this, I had some vague plans, perhaps to enroll in a master's program, to build a career. Now I'm just trying to survive and stay afloat. I don't know if I'll ever be able to think about the future with hope rather than worry again. The lease on my apartment expires in a week. After much thought, I decided to move to a slightly better apartment in another area. It's a small step, but it's important to me. I want to move forward and not stay stuck in one place. Yesterday, I had dinner with Alex from the youth center. He's leaving for college soon and wanted to thank me for the support I've given him this entire year. Seeing him deal with his pain and move forward despite his loss gave me hope. Maybe I can do the same. While I was packing for the move, I couldn't help but take stock of my life. A year ago, I left my home with one suitcase and a broken heart. Now I have a job, an apartment, friends. It's not much, but it's what I built myself. And I have something to be proud of, even despite the pain and uncertainty that is still with me. I'm still waiting to hear from my father. He promised to look into it, but so far he is silent. And this silence is oppressive. I try not to stress myself out and be patient. Whatever happens, I'm ready for anything. I am stronger than I was a year ago. I experienced betrayal, loneliness, and uncertainty. I will cope with any difficulties that lie ahead. While I'm focused on the move, on making this new place truly my home, on continuing to build a life that is only mine, no matter what happens to my father, Karen, and Ashley. This is not the life I imagined, but this is my life. Final update. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and a lot has happened in that time. I don't know where to start, but I should probably jump straight to the main news. My father finally made a decision after our conversation, in which I told him everything about the conversation I overheard. Karen and Ashley. My father spent several weeks investigating. He hired a private detective, checked financial accounts, and even arranged some kind of operation, the details of which he did not disclose. In the end, he found enough evidence to confirm my words, and even more than I could have imagined. It turned out that Karen and Ashley, they've been withdrawing money from their father's accounts for years. They made small transfers. The amounts were not enough to raise suspicion, but over a long period of time, a significant amount accumulated. In addition, they put psychological pressure on my father, forcing him to change his will. When their father showed them the evidence, chaos began. At first, Karen denied everything, then tried to blame it on Ashley. But Ashley couldn't stand it and confessed everything, at the same time surrendering herself to Karen. It was a complete mess. Ultimately, the father filed for divorce and also filed a case for financial fraud. Karen and Ashley moved out and, as far as I know, are now living with their sister Karen in another state. I have mixed feelings about all of this. On the one hand, I feel relieved, because everything that I was afraid of, everything that I heard then, turned out to be true. On the other hand, it's hard for me to see my father go through this pain. He loved Karen, or at least thought he did. It was a huge blow for him to find out that it was all a lie. My father and I began to communicate more often. He has already apologized countless times for not noticing all this, for not believing me right away. And I forgave him. But our relationship is still tense. We are working on this. Now we have dinner together every week. Sometimes it's awkward, but it's the beginning of something new. As for me, I live in a new apartment. I needed this move. It seems to me that this is truly a new stage, a place that has nothing to do with Karen and Ashley. I am constantly arranging my home, turning it into a real home. Work has also gotten a little better. The layoffs I was worried about didn't happen in the end. And recently they even raised my salary a little. It may be a small amount, but now I no longer live paycheck to paycheck. I even started saving a little. Even if the amount is small for now, it is already a step forward. Therapy continues. According to my psychologist, I'm making noticeable progress, even if sometimes it doesn't seem like it. The feeling of anger and betrayal has not yet gone away, but now it does not control me as before. I'm learning to live with what happened and not let it define my life. I began to spend more time with my mother's side of the family. Aunt Sarah became like a second mother to me. She is always ready to give advice or just listen when I need it. I visit her more often and have started to get reacquainted with my cousins. It's nice to feel like I'm part of a family again, even if it's not the one I grew up in. Dating is still difficult. I dated different girls a few times, but nothing serious. I'm still having a hard time learning to trust and open up again. The psychologist says that this is normal, that it takes time. I try to be patient with myself. Unexpectedly for myself, I started writing. At first it was just journal entries, but now I'm thinking about turning my experience into a book. Maybe a memoir, or maybe something artistic. I'm not sure what format it will be in yet, but the process of writing has become a way for me to process everything that happened, and in some sense, therapy. Last week, my father and I talked at length about the issue of inheritance. He set up a trust fund for me, separate from his personal assets, and said he wanted to make sure I would be safe no matter what happened. I tried to explain that I didn't need this money, that I didn't leave for this, but he insisted. I think this is his way of making amends. The father also wants to sell the house. There are too many bad memories in it. I'm sad about this. This was my childhood home, but I understand that my father needs a new start. Together we are looking at smaller housing options. He even jokes that we could become neighbors, but I think we both understand that it's better for us to live separately. Last week I ran into one of my friends at the store, Ashley. She gave me an angry look and muttered something about how I had ruined my life. Ashley. I wanted to answer, to explain, but instead I just walked by. Their opinion means nothing to me anymore. I know the truth, and that's enough. Work became a good distraction. I give it my all, take on additional projects, and my bosses have noticed this. My boss even hinted that I might be getting a promotion soon. It's nice to feel like my work is appreciated and that everything I've been through hasn't broken me. My dad and I are planning a little weekend trip to a lake we went to when I was a kid, before my mom got sick. It seems to me that this is a step towards restoring our relationship, an attempt to create new memories that can replace the bad moments. I've been thinking about my mom a lot lately. I wonder what she would say about everything that happened. How would she support me? I miss her more than ever. The last time I visited Aunt Sarah, she gave me a box of my mother's things, old photographs, letters, even her jewelry. Going through them was hard, but at the same time, it helped me. It's nice to have something tangible that connects me to her. I started getting back in touch with old friends that I lost contact with when all this happened. Some were happy to hear from me, others not so much. But I'm glad that I have a social circle again, that there are people in my life again who know me as I was before this whole story. Legal proceedings against Karen and Ashley continue. My dad's lawyer is keeping us informed, but I'm trying not to dwell on it. They will answer for their actions, but their fate should no longer influence my life. Lately, I've been thinking more and more about the future. Not just about how to live another day, but about how to build your life further. I'm thinking about going back to school. Maybe getting a master's degree. This is a big step, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can do it. There are still bad days, but now there are fewer of them than good ones. I can't say I've fully mastered it yet, but I'm moving forward. I'm building a life that is no longer defined by what Karen and Ashley they tried to do to me. This is not the life I imagined, but this is my life. And for the first time in a long time, I wonder what awaits me next. Thanks to everyone who followed my story, who supported and gave advice. Your kindness meant more to me than words can express. This is my last update. It's time to close this chapter of my life and focus on writing a new one. Wish me luck. Well, that's all. Be sure to write your opinion about this story in the comments. In my opinion, the author in principle did everything right. I completely understand his motivation. No matter how afraid he was of ruining his relationship with his father, he had no proof. Yes, the author had no evidence, even at the end, when he finally decided to talk to his father. And yet, I think that the author in this story acted like a complete fool. He suffered so nobly throughout history, fought for his life, for conditions, for work, although his father is financially secure. For what? I don't understand. In the end, the situation was resolved when he simply talked to him and spilled the truth. It's one thing to say it right away, but another to remain silent for so long until the father himself understands why his son pulled away. These are two big differences. Well, maybe you're right. But in any case, I think that he has an adequate father. Not like in some stories where parents do trash with their children. Here is a normal, reasonable person who simply got involved with some woman who stole from him, and a daughter who kicked out his own son. Yes, no one is insured. Men, like women, are deceived left and right. What can I say? To some extent, yes. But I think that it was necessary to immediately tell my father everything as it is. He would have reacted appropriately. My theory is he's normal. What if I didn't react? Well, I reacted, even after all this time. He was afraid of ruining his relationship with his father, and as a result, his detachment only made him move away. But my father still continued to try to make contact. So I think it was possible to do the same thing, just without all that suffering in the middle. He suffered for a year, or how many are there? In general, write in the comments whose opinion you support more, or maybe you have your own opinion. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to our channel and check out our previous videos too. And good luck!